tradwives are all over social media, offending girl bosses and CEOs everywhere. But are traditional housewives onto something, or are they espousing dangerous far-right ideology, as some of their critics claim? My friends and I are absolutely obsessed with the Mormon tradwife, Ballerina Farm on TikTok. We hate her, we love her because she's perfect and beautiful and has 8 adorable children, and she makes cheese and freaking sourdough bread for her 6 million followers. And we're just a bunch of old 30-something workaholics living in the city. The only sourdough we're making is after a round of antibiotics.
This is a TikTok thing?
Oh yeah, this is a TikTok thing, a major TikTok thing.
I'm not on TikTok, so I don't know, but okay. All right.
Well, tradwives care about traditional values and gender roles. On social media, they also care a lot about the 1950s aesthetic. Tradwives are homemakers and mothers who submit to their working husbands, which is really what makes them so controversial. They're also overwhelmingly white and affluent. Some tradwives promote fundamentalist Christian ideas and controversial takes on gender, identity, and race that can get lost in the 1950s aesthetic.
So how do you feel about that?
As a feminist, I think it's okay for women to truly want to be traditional housewives. There's nothing wrong with that. And for women to want to adhere to gender roles, as long as it's something that they really want to do and it's not something that they're being forced or pressured into doing. Because women did fight for the right to vote and for the right to have jobs and leave the home.
Yeah, I guess you could go one of two ways with this. On one level, it could be a good thing. On another level, it could be a bad thing. For example, I'm starting to think of things like The Handmaid's Tale. Have you seen that show?
Yes.
You know, it could be a bad thing if these women want all other women to move in that direction and we have to live in a Handmaid's Tale type of scenario.
Yeah, and also this is a small minority of people on social media. This is not the overwhelming majority. And what cracks me up is some of these girls aren't even moms yet or wives yet. So they're hashtagging tradwife, but they're just like tradwives in training, just young girls who are watching videos and wanting to dress like they're in Mad Men.
Well, you're right. Mad Men did look like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Until you watch the show and then you see that, there were definitely downsides of living in that suppressed sort of scenario.
Yes.
And they wanted to escape from that. It reminds me of, my mom told me a story of like when she was growing up, she was one of the first women who broke through the glass ceiling at her company and she wanted to be a manager of the company. And she was told by the higher ups, like, they will never hire a woman. You should give up on that. And then she eventually, kept fighting for it and she broke through and she got to be the manager of the company. And so that was a great progress for her at the time.
Yeah, and similarly, my mom was expected by her parents to just become a wife and a mother and to not go to college. And she really had to pay for her own way through college to make that happen, to stand up for her right to have a career and make a life that she wanted for herself.
Right. So like our previous generations have really gone through a lot to get where we are now. So to think that there might be some people that are resentful of that and want to go backwards is a sign of the times, but maybe they're not all of that philosophy, and maybe we're just afraid that that's what they want. I don't know. I have family members that are more traditional, and I think that works for them because I looked into Jungian psychology, and there's 12 archetypes, and one of the archetypes is the caretaker archetype, and I think my family member definitely is the caretaker archetype. They want to be at home, they want to cook and clean and make people happy so that they can live a better life. But the problem arises when we think that all women should be doing that.
We also don't have much work-life balance in this very capitalist society where most of us have our identities wrapped up in our careers, as opposed to if you go to Europe, a lot of people there, even though it's capitalist, they, go to siesta and they take a bunch of hours off in the middle of the day. Women like me who work all the time, we definitely kind of can see the romanticized view of like staying home, going to yoga, getting your nails done, like being a quote unquote trad wife.
First season of Mad Men, romanticizing it to hell, yeah.
Yes, and actually Ali Wong, the comedian, she has a really hilarious bit about this.
I think feminism is the worst thing that ever happened to women. Our job used to be no job. We could have done the smart thing, which would have been to continue playing dumb.
She's obviously joking, but she's making a hilarious point that women today are burnt out. We're either stuck in the office 24/7, have no time for ourselves, for our families, or we're seen as these pathetic little housewives because society does not value women and being a homemaker, which is an incredibly tough job, and it's an unpaid job.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways you could look at this story. But I also wonder, do you think investigating it yourself, do you think some of the women that are taking up the tradwife movement are doing it out of a resentment? Like they feel like society's telling them they can't be a traditional housewife?
I think some of them take that. It's almost like a counterculture revolution for them where they see that. I've also seen some pretty interesting and kind of funny headlines that are saying like, tradwives are the new face of the far right.
It's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.